Why Chicago and not New York or any other large city?
Hi
everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. So we have a special guest. We're on our way to the pool, so this is why we look like this. But we have Reagan. Introduce yourself.
y'all, I'm Reagan. What up? What do you want me to say?
Reagan, where are you from?
Okay.
Just say where you're from.
Okay.
Then I'll ask the question.
Okay, I'm Reagan. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I live over in East Garfield Park now.
Okay. And Reagan and I met at work. So just like Rochelle, we all met at work. The same job. So we all know each other. Rochelle's over there. I just want to ask you a couple questions about Chicago. Moving here, what you thought about it, kind of what your journey was to move here, and things like that. So when did you move to Chicago?
So I moved to Chicago in 2015.
2015, and did you like come for a job? Did you come for, like, what was your reason for coming to Chicago?
I originally came for a job. I was working in kitchens as a pastry chef, and I wanted to become a pastry cook, and I wanted to become a pastry chef. I wanted to make desserts for a living. So I came to Chicago to work in like a fancy restaurant and work my way up eventually.
Okay. Why Chicago and not New York or any other large city?
At first, because Chicago was the closest to my home, is an hour and a half away driving. It's relatively affordable. I had another friend who was moving here for a job also, so it was like, okay, we're both moving here for jobs, let's just do this together since we don't know anybody. And then I think I've stayed in Chicago. One, affordability for a big city. Two, I've also just fallen in love with the city, so I choose it every year.
Same. I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes it's just like, girl, you're staying.
Sometimes the city chooses me. You think you need like a lot of money to move to Chicago, or like did you like save up a bunch before you moved, or like how was that, like finding an apartment? Well, I know you had a friend that lived here, but I guess a little bit like your money situation. Did you save up a bunch? Do you feel like you have to save up a bunch?
I had no savings. I had like $50. I was very fortunate that my friend that I moved here with did most of the research in terms of finding an apartment, and then he like fronted me like the move-in fee and stuff like that, and I paid him back over time. So without his help, I probably wouldn't have been able to move to Chicago on my own. And I think that's something that I would say for like most people, like you don't need a ton of money, but you might need help instead. Maybe moving in with a friend until you get like a little bit more stable. But so with my situation, I had a friend help me, and I maybe could have done it eventually on my own, but I'm really grateful that I was able to move here. I think it really helped me become the person that I am today.
Yeah, I agree. I think having help is helpful. On the topic of community, since you've been here, what is that, like 8 years now? Like, how have you felt about community in Chicago? Like, has it changed? How have you been like building community? And how have you been making friends? I feel like as transplants, it's typically harder for transplants to like build that community, but I've noticed that transplants stick together more than people who are from Chicago. So like, how have you curated or built that community?
When I first moved to Chicago, it was first just my workplace, which, you know, is a fine place to meet folks. I think a lot of us make friends in our workplaces, but they weren't necessarily people that I'm still friends with or wanted to be friends with. And so I started joining Facebook groups, actually. I started joining like craft Facebook groups, Black women groups, queer in Chicago groups, and some other issues that I cared about. I would join those groups, chat up with people in the discussion boards, and then eventually would meet people out in person that I met on the internet. But that's how I met some of my like first like really authentic, genuine friendships. Is like we connected off of our interests or identities. Since then, it's a mix of both. It's a mix of work, it's a mix of circumstances, it's a mix of interests. I think what has also helped me is like my form of transportation. I mostly bike, especially in like the summer and the warmer months. So that allows me to not only like see different parts of Chicago that I didn't before, but also access it. So I'm able to connect with folks in different neighborhoods really well. And then just getting involved in my community, joining like mutual aid groups, like volunteering once in a while. You meet some really cool folks, and you have more in common with them than like, oh, we just happen to both work here and let's get a drink after work. Like, so that's what I would encourage folks to, like, you know, branch out, start doing things that interest you or engaging in like topics that interest you, and you'll build really genuine connections that way.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that I've had a couple people reach out to me asking about the queer community, and I personally don't know how to speak to it. So can you speak to it? How do you feel like the queer community is in Chicago?
I think Chicago has a vibrant queer community. It is segregated like most communities in Chicago. So on the north side, you'll find more of the white queers, the white gay men specifically. You know, Boys Town is their hub. And then personally, I find more queer spaces that I identify with as a person of color, as a black person on the south side and west side. Again, finding those communities all started with the internet, lovely social media. So I would follow like queer events and then go to them, and maybe I would bring one friend with me, but sometimes I would just show up depending on what happened. So groups like Party Noir, Slow-Mo, even things like the Fifi, you can find a lot of queer folks there. Those are mostly parties. So if you like to dance,
Reagan likes to dance. Reagan likes to dance.
I do like to dance. Those are mostly parties. So if you're looking for something like a little bit more mellow, those are just ways to like meet folks. And me personally, I love like chill nights also. So like picnics and board game nights. Like you'll find me doing those things too. So I would just start following like social media accounts and again like groups online, and then when events happen in the city, just like pop up.
Definitely vibrant. Like Pride up in Boys Town is lit. It's an entire party. Like the streets are filled, fun, like packed. To everyone's favorite part, what are your thoughts on dating in Chicago?
Dating in Chicago. I mean, for queer spaces, I will say dating in Chicago, once you know a handful of queer folks, you know most of the people in Chicago, or at least you're connected. Like, you may not know everybody, but your 5 friends, through them you know everybody. So queer community is small, but I date people of all genders, really. I don't know. You can meet a lot of folks who are like have a lot of different interests and like are real like go-getters and hustlers and have some great aspirations, and that's always really fun. But then you meet some folks who have lived in this space all their life and kind of like the same and doing the same things, and so you kind of have to navigate those spaces. I don't know. I go back and forth between like, yeah, I love dating, it's so much fun, and then like it's gross. I also go back and forth between like dating men and not. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, men, and then you go on 2 dates and you're like, I'm over them. Don't talk to me anymore.
I 100% agree. I always say like men that I've met that are from Chicago, they have this just kind of like stuck mindset where it's just like Chicago is it, and that's that. Versus like men that I've met who weren't from Chicago, they're more like they're here for a purpose.
Or men who like, if you're from here but then you spent a significant amount of time away and then came back, I connect with those folks a lot too.
Yeah, it's like getting out. Even if this is a big city, like getting out of your hometown. So let's talk a little bit about your neighborhood. How do you like it? What made you choose it? Would you recommend it?
So I live in East Garfield Park. It's predominantly a black neighborhood and I love it. Lots of families. There are lots of old folks. I live in between like 2 old folks' homes, and in the winter they'll be hotboxing in their cars outside. Outside
the old people?
You'll be walking down. You'll be walking down the block and you're like, it smells, and then you'll look and there'll be a car of like 4 of them and it's all foggy and they just like look at you and you look at them and it's like,
not
okay.
the old people. Get out of here.
They gotta live their life too. All I think is I'm gonna be you one day.
No, literally. Especially if I'm living at an old person's home. Like a home.
So I really love my neighborhood. I think it's really vibrant. In terms of like walkability and things to do in the neighborhood, there's not a lot. There's not even like a grocery store that I could even really walk to. So I have to like get on the train or bike in order to access things. My neighborhood is really just about the community and the people. I think I moved there really for affordability, but then also it's like, for me, central location. I can access Pilsen, Westtown, Logan Square pretty quickly on my bike or a bus. I can access downtown. When I first moved to East Garfield, I was working downtown, so I could get downtown in like 15 minutes. I could get to West Loop in like 10. So not a lot to do in my neighborhood as far as like places to go to, but I feel like really warm and vibrant community around me, and I can quickly access the other neighborhoods that I want to be in. It is a little quieter and chiller, which I like. So like, yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, I want to be in Wicker, I want to be in West because that's where everything's happening. But like, I like to be able to step back and be like, okay, my street's quiet. There's no partying till 2 a.m. It's chill, and it gives me more of an opportunity to like know my neighbors.
Yeah, it's like good to party, but then come back to peace. Let's see if I have any other questions.
About food.
Yeah, we can talk about food. Yeah, let's talk about food.
You know I love food.
I said that in a vlog. Didn't y'all hear me? I said if I need a food recommendation, I'm going to Reagan, Francis, and who was the other person? I can't remember the third person, but I was like, those are the only 3 people I trust. Food recommendations. Give us some of your favorite restaurants.
My favorite. Top five. Okay. Okay, we can't. I'm like also a little like protective. I'm like, not everyone's gonna show up at my spot.
Oh my gosh. This is not a TikTok that's gonna blow up.
Okay, good. If I catch y'all at my restaurants, if I can't get in because y'all all there, I'm gonna fight. Okay, top 5 restaurants. My number 1 restaurant in Chicago, my absolute favorite, can't go wrong, is Rootstock.
I knew it. I knew it. I was gonna say it.
You're gonna say it.
And let me tell you what she loves.
What do I love?
The burger.
Yes. It's
the burger.
very rare that I go there and I'm not getting the burger.
Yeah, you can eat the burger all the time.
I could. But it's a wine bar. It's really like no frills, but it's also like kind of romantic and cute to take a date, but also cute to take a group of friends and like order a bunch of bottles. That's number 1. I also love Creed's over on Lake in California, right by me. It's only a takeout spot, so you can't go in and eat, but like best soul food, like best mac and cheese I've ever had. I love their cabbage. Their smoked wings are amazing. Their catfish is really good. It's good. It's like a hole in the wall. But if you go on Sunday, go before the church crowd goes, because then they get sold out. Okay. So, and then you're doomed. My favorite sushi place is what's it called? Kaizen. Kaizen is my favorite sushi place. I always order their omasake menu. So good. I need 2 more. What else do we like? Humble House over on North.
I love that. I love
and Sacramento. Really good sandwiches. If they have cheesecake, get their cheesecake. It's delicious. And then you need 1 more. I don't know, I feel like I hit all the spots. I like Mesler over in Hyde Park. I love their chicken and waffles.
Yeah, their brunch is pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all.
Happy eating.
All. Where can the people find you?
The people can find me on Instagram. It's _Reagan. Where else? You can also find me riding my bike and drinking wine at Rootstock.
Don't go looking for her at Rootstock. That's creepy.
That is creepy. Please don't.
Please don't go looking for her.
I'm actually really shy too. Easily creeped out.
Like, hey, I saw you in that YouTube video.
What?
Thank you so much for talking a little bit about your Chicago experience. I hope this helped anyone who's looking to move to Chicago. And you'll see Reagan in the next vlog.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
I testify for you. I do that 3 4 times again. I testify for you. I told that lie, kill that bitch. I do it all in the whole round. You scared to do. I'm not. Long as you talking now.
I had cookies for breakfast, so.
You're not forcing me to eat. We had what, noodles and smoothies?
Girl dinner.
Girl,